Because now we need to move on to quarterback, right? This is what most everybody really wants to hear about in large part. I think we're in a really good spot with it, so that's why I wanted to start with linemen, because I just kind of think that lineman area is going to be quite a bit more important. We want to be able to run the ball, and we want to be able to run the ball well, so having a cohesive line like we didn't quite have for the first good 6 games or so, and maybe didn't quite mesh that thing all season like we really wanted it to, is just extremely important. So of course those guys are going to have to then work really well with the QB, just like I was talking about with Zune earlier. The awareness, how they kind of speak to each other without speaking to each other and know where each other is going to be a really big deal. So my official pre-fall projection is going to be left to right: Zune, Moko, Foster, Robinson, and Fothery. Nothing very groundbreaking on the right side, and probably most everybody knows about the left tackle and left guard at this point. I don't think there's a big secret there too. So quarterback, I don't think anybody's got a good beat on quarterback. I think I've heard everything under the sun at this point. I've even maybe heard that Weigman may be something that people ought to watch out for. He's working with receivers. He's a motivator, and so that's a desirable trait. Why not give him a look? He looked pretty decent in the fall game. Let me just pull up their stats real quick, which I thought was fairly eye-opening. Haynes King went 11 for 33. And 133 yards. He did throw 2 INTs. He ran 3 times for 42 yards and got 1 TD. That was rushing. Max Johnson, he went 13 of 31 passing for 127 yards. So they're almost dead even. Max has got a slightly higher completion percentage. He threw 2 TDs. He did throw 1 INT. So Haynes King had no passing TDs. He did have the 1 rushing TD. Max had 2 passing TDs, 1 INT to Haynes King's 2, and then Max also had 8 rushes for 91 yards. Okay, so I didn't quite think Max had that many rushing yards. That was pretty surprising. And then the 2 TDs were a little like, I was like, really, when did those happen? I didn't even quite get it. Haynes King, 2 INTs so far. So based off of the stats, where would you be leaning? You think about that and let's talk. Let me find Weigman's real quick. It's around here somewhere. I want to say it was something that was, like, wow, really? Weigman threw for that? You wouldn't think he would have thrown for what he did, but he did. And so I'll find it in a little bit, but it was something similar. It was something like maybe 7 of 11 for 97 yards, something along those lines. I think he had one TD. So I wouldn't put the guy out of the discussion. It's just difficult to think, he can step in and hit the ground running. We're going to have to play Miami pretty quick out of the gate, and we've got to have somebody that is ready to go. I'm not wanting to fool around with getting somebody ready for Miami. I want the first 2 games to be Sam Houston and Appalachian State, and I want to see all cylinders firing. So I want these guys to be ready to go. And taking 2 games to train somebody up to get ready for the 3rd game, to me, it's not working at this point. We need to be ready to go, because that's reminiscent for me of the Sumlin era, and I'm done with that. So that leads me to believe that if the same sentiments are in line with what I've got, we're looking at either Max Johnson or Haynes King. So where do you think we go from there? What's that going to look? Yeah, it's a really, really great question. So I gave you the stats that probably, based off the spring game, is going to give Max is going to have just a slight edge at this point based off of stats. Haynes King, he played last year. He won the spot, so he's our kind of de facto number 1. Max is coming in with nearly an entire season of experience with LSU. Maybe that bumps him up again past Haynes King because of that. So it's hard to say. Here's what I see from them, or maybe this is what I want to see out of. Let's start with Haynes King. What I want to see out of him before I'm feeling more comfortable. And I think back to the Kent State game. His kryptonite, in my opinion, were passes right around the 10, 12, 15-yard mark. He was just a little bit errant, right? And we saw these interceptions happening, and we're thinking Kent State here. We're like, I'm ready to go out and trounce these guys. And by the score, we did. But if you watch the game, it felt like a struggle. It felt like we were getting to third down converting instead of, like just blowing them out of the water on first and second down. And that's what I want to see. That's what we need to be ready to do. In the spring game, I would have to say he looked better. I think the accuracy has gotten better. I'd like to see a little bit more, but once we get to there, and I see those passes coming down, I'm gonna feel pretty good. But I'm still a little skeptical. I'll be honest. I just feel a little uneasy about it at the moment. And I think he's very capable, and I think he's a guy that can be successful, and that likely would have some success. Would he have done better than Calzada last year if he'd played full year? Yeah, I think he would have, absolutely. Calzada had some great moments, though. So can you reproduce those kinds of moments? Maybe not each one of them, but in different ways, possibly you can. And I think he's got that in him. When I'm watching Max play, though, I'm seeing something from Max that I just have not seen, and I can't really remember, and for sure not last year. Last year was difficult. There were definitely times when you felt like it's like you're sitting in the dentist chair, right? I mean, this is, I don't know, 1880s all over again, and you've got a bad tooth and you need to go have it pulled. It was just very difficult watching Calzada move around in the pocket. Max is not that way. He is the polar opposite of that. He can sense where the blitz is coming from. He feels it without feeling it. It's like he can sense their breath coming from the left side, and he's moving to the right. He has no problem stepping up either. I don't know if the dude has taken a big shot and he hasn't become gun shy yet, or what the deal is, but he seems like he may have balls of steel. I will just have to see, because the way he stepped up in the pocket, and I know quarterbacks are protected in the spring game, but he just gives off that sense that he wants to be in the pocket. Like he doesn't want to get out of the pocket, and he wants to stay in. And I think to a degree we're going to have our linemen playing up because of that, because that's kind of what he expects. And then oddly enough, the guy moves and runs better than I ever anticipated he was going to do. He's got a little head bob that leaves defenders scratching their head. I mean, what's going on? Where did that even come from? I don't quite get it. I don't know if he's got a little Joe Burrow in him or something, but whatever. And if he does, all the more power to him. We'll take it, because that guy's amazing. Something about his running ability too kind of ties in with that whole awareness thing. It's like he kind of can sense, where he needs to kind of make his move and where not to make his move. So he gives me an idea that he's a very football savvy guy, and I think we could really, really use that right now, and just the experience that he's going to bring to the table. For me, if you told me we're going Max Johnson tomorrow and he's our starter, I'd feel pretty good about it. I'd feel real good about it. If you told me Haynes King, I'd be like, okay, I'm good with that too. I'm good with that. I think we have a really good quarterback situation to go that we're coming into as well. So very pleased about that. The cream still has to rise to the top in both of these key situations, because in the end, what we have got to do is we have got to get the ball down the field. We have got to be better at 10 to 20 yard passes, and the occasional And hopefully it's not occasional moving forward that we're going to get more shots down the field. Probably the biggest knock I have for Max Johnson was in the spring game. He tended to be a little errant. You could see it. He throw behind the receiver a little bit. And so we maybe walk into a little bit of an accuracy situation there too. But then again, you've got the last play of the LSU game versus us, and he throws a dime. So how do you diagnose that? What is he going to do? Is he this guy, or is he this guy? Is he accurate or is he not accurate? Maybe that's his thing. Maybe we're gonna have to deal with him where he's going to be a little bit inaccurate at times, right? Maybe we've got us a Trevor Knight on our hands. So not the best passer, but a motivator. A guy that's gung ho, a guy that's smart, knows what he's doing, and it's going to give 110%. And if that's what we've got, I'm all for that. I remember back to Trevor bring us back in that Arkansas game, right? And didn't he? Hopefully memory's serving me correctly, but in that overtime game against Tennessee, wow, some amazing games to have that guy a part of. So I think Max Johnson's probably somewhere between a Trevor Knight and a Joe Burrow. LSU people, if they were ever listening to this, would probably like, don't ever compare him to Joe Burrow, this and that. Just calm down. Okay? And put the EAUX on that however you want to, and take that and put it in your pipe. Just give it a rest, because I'm not trying to say he's Joe Burrow, but the idea is that he's got some characteristics that are very reminiscent of that. So that doesn't mean he's going to just take us to a championship or something and give us the same kind of production, but you get the idea. He's got some pocket presence and awareness and stuff that we're looking for, and that they had the same. So